Some Greeks came to Jesus. They must have heard of all the good things that he had been doing, and they requested to see Jesus. In that request, we read again of, that longing in the human heart, that yearning for something more. But Jesus started talking about his death and our death. This is what he said about his imminent death. Now, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. He didn't talk about his death as a failure or something shameful or as a defeat, but as glorious and necessary. His death was necessary for the salvation of our souls. He said, unless a grain of seed falls into the ground and dies, it remains a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. His death leads to our life. The other strand of his teaching was about our death as a new way of living, as a pattern for our lives. I do not mean our physical death, but our daily dying to ourselves by living for others. This is the kind of death St. Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 31, when he said, I die every day. Dear friends, we too must die every day to sin, to this overbearing love for ourselves, to selfishness, to self-centeredness, to the tendency to live only for myself, for I and mine. These are the deaths that we must die every day, lest when we die, we will be dead forever. This was why Jesus said, anyone who loves his life loses it. But anyone who hates his life in this world keeps it for the eternal life. In other words, the love of this life is the loss of eternal life. And anyone who lives only for the now risks losing the hereafter. Unfortunately, this is how the world wants us to live, to be worldly, to be narcissistic, Your best life now. Your best life isn't here now. Your best life will be in the kingdom with God when we shall see him face to face. So that's not the way of God. The way of Christ is selfless. And that's why I won't be surprised that, his Greek visitors found his teaching very difficult. A strange paradox, if you like. As we never heard of them anymore in the gospel. Many of us too long for Jesus. Who wouldn't want to see Jesus? But like the Greeks, the values he presents to us, we find it too difficult to accept and to live. We want to see Jesus because we want only the good things that he has to offer. His healing, eternal life, his graces, his heaven, his blessing, his power. But we want no part of his cross. Have we ever wondered why the cross is the symbol of our Christian faith? We want no part of his cross. We want no part of his faith. We want no part of his laws. You can see we are making different laws for ourselves. Laws that separate us from the love of God. So Jesus is making it crystal clear today that except we share in his death, we cannot share in his life. Except we share in his cross and in his suffering, we cannot share in his glory. Martin Luther King once wrote about a time when he knelt in prayer in his kitchen in his house in Alabama. Stones had been thrown through his windows because of his call for the civil rights for the blacks. His wife and children were in danger. He was already a respected academic. His career is well ahead of him. He needed not to be, to be involved in any activism. So he knelt down in prayer and was asking God, if it was right to put himself, his family in danger for what he was doing. And he was inspired to take the decision to continue to serve God by speaking out for those who were most oppressed. The will of God, the welfare of his people should be placed before his own security, the security of his family. So by making that choice, he chose to die, that others may fully live. That others may fully live. This is what Jesus did for us. He lived for us. His death was for us. And even rising, he restored our lives. He gave us all. He poured out himself, complete kenosis. And this is what Jesus wants us to do for others. And it is only possible if we die daily to ourselves, if we are not so self-absorbed by our own self-importance and our own interests. This is the kind of death that leads to eternal life. God bless you.